Peace and blessings, folks. Welcome to the Prolific Perspectives podcast, where we're talking everything business. Today, I have a very special guest. He's going to join me to speak about the book business, among many other business ventures and business success that he's achieved. But also, we're going to dive deep into the backstory of all the trials, tribulations, all the roadblocks that try to get in our way in terms of creating success with business, something that I know I can firsthand relate to with every project that I've ever, tried to bring to life. I know there's always been some type of issue that has came forth. But speaking off air last week, I got a revelation about the journey behind his masterpiece. And I'm going to say that respectfully, but he has authored and created several masterpieces, but one of the ones I think is most known by most people in the African spirituality space is the Handbook of Yoruba Religious Concepts, which I'm happy to hold my copy right here. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome to the show, Baba Oloye Ifa Karade. Baba, what's going on with you? How you doing this evening?
Filthy.
All right, my brother, peace,
Peace and blessings.
Yeah, I'd like to, begin by saying, I'm honored to be here, and I appreciate you. I appreciate, the journey that you're on to bring this information to the generations and to have an impact, an actual impact, not theoretical, not hypothetical, but actual. So it's time to kind of place our feet squarely on the ground and move forward.
I appreciate it.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate you joining me. I appreciate those words too, Baba, for real. And with that being said, I just kind of want to dive right into it. The handbook. We spoke last week, and I had no idea the struggles that you went through to bring this project to fruition. And I know that I'm sure you had thousands of testimonials and thousands of books sold with this particular project amongst all the other projects, but this particular one, because it was my first exposure to you and your work. But I think it's been a couple of years since I've had the honor of being under your mentorship and guidance, but I never knew the backstory behind the handbook. So for those who have received a copy, who have read the handbook, I'm sure they found it on Amazon or multiple other sites out there. Any spiritual site that sells any kind of, especially African spirituality books, they have your book on their shelf or on their site because it's got to be a bestseller. I know that for a fact. But with that being said, Baba, can you kind of share all the different roadblocks and all the different hurdles that you had to kind of knock down and run through in order to really bring this book to life and to get it into the mainstream? Can you kind of share that backstory with us a little bit, just especially for all the aspiring authors out there who are trying to write a book and they think that the process is easy or they might be stuck? Like, can you just kind of let them know how persistence played a part in you bringing this art to the world? Right. That's crazy.
So I found a way. And when I was finding a way, through some of my Nigerian contacts, and some one or two people throughout the US who shared similar thoughts. Olatunji Osurjiman, John Mason, brothers coming in and out of Brooklyn, but they kind of had a little gangster kind of role with them, but they're New Yorkers, you know what I mean? They big cities. So, but I'm like, and you ain't got nothing on me, So I learned from them and I moved on. And the next thing you know, I'm in Nigeria, 1991, and I made that happen, went back for my year in 92. And they laid out, because I was initiated by elders. I wasn't running around with these young cats over there.
Right.
Oh, they too slick for me. Right. So, with Iyan Lakeye and Baba Raba Malamo. So Initiation's done. Ifa priest, Obatala priest. Okay, hit the road. This is what Orisha and Arumila see for you. You will be king. You will be a mover and a shaker. You will establish your temple. You will continue this work. Orumila has blessed you. Obatala has blessed you. You're a child of all the Orishas. Omo Orisha. You know, da 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 da. And I was like, I'm so thankful. I feel so blessed. I'm going to do what I need to do. So when I was on the plane coming back, crossing the Atlantic, this time because I wanted to, not because nobody had chained me and was dragging me back and forth across the Atlantic. This was me. It dawned on me, 1992, you're going to start your own temple. You're not going to keep trying to change people's minds. Your mind is already changed. Do what you need to do. Plant your seed in your land, in your garden. Okay. And then let the fruit nourish those who hunger, who thirst. And that's what I set out doing. In the meanwhile, I'm taking notes, brother.
I know that's right.
You know, I got my journal happening. You know, I'm not here to show pictures and for the scrapbook, or let everybody see that all my no. This is a pursuit. Okay. And before then, very few people saw what I was doing or was into. Because I wasn't looking for followers, and social media wasn't the hype, back then as it was now. But they did have something else, some form. People were doing it, prior to Facebook. But I wasn't interested in that. I'm not doing this for a photo shoot.
Right.
Okay. I'm really not. And when people came to the temple and got initiated, I was like, no pictures. If you feel as though you got to take pictures, go somewhere else.
Right. Sacred.
It's because it's just to prove it to whom, or you want what of what. Now, if you do take pictures, they become property of the temple.
Right.
Okay. Because I'm not trying to sell the temple either. What's on the menu here is learning. Okay. Not, look at me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, look at you. Okay. Really, because just because you go through something, the initiation process, that doesn't mean that you understand what's happening or what should be happening.
Right.
So that pretty picture is like, well-dressed people that doesn't really kind of show what they are inside, So the whole thing is that I'm taking notes. Okay. And I have stack of notes. I've been to Puerto Rico. By the time, I had been to Brazil, have been around, been to Nigeria twice. I was in Kenya in 77. I had notes from back then. I had studied with some of the masters. I had notes. And I'm like, okay. Orumila is the scribe of the Orisha. And what do scribes do? They write, okay? They put it in a form, articulate, okay? Elaborate, put it in a way that people can more so grasp and be guided by.
Right.
So that's what I set out to do. There was no night, there was no day. And by the time I had accumulated all the work, I said, this is too much. I mean, I'm not trying to get into the PhD club right now. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to, get the big book on the big shelf. You know what I mean? That hardly anybody can reach, and those who do kind of keep it on their intellectual, I got this level.
Right.
Doesn't really filter down into the masses of the people, So I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the next 2 years or whatever, and I'm going to boil all of these notes down into their basic ingredients. You know what I mean? To what they all are about.
Right.
And in the process of doing that, I was still running the temple. It wasn't as big at that time, than running out of one room in somebody else's house kind of thing, before I got my own. And then the next thing you know, I have a sprawling backyard. We built a stage in the backyard. You know what I mean? People coming from all over the world to get initiated. All right. But before that, it was like baby steps. You know what I mean? And a lot of falling down,
Right. Right.
But I'm working on the book. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So about time I boiled it down and I came up with the title, the Handbook of Yoruba Religion. I wanted the handbook. I wanted something that people can carry in their hand. You know what I mean? To make it accessible. Yes. Okay. Even the front cover was done by one of the temple initiates.
Mm.
Okay. I put everybody to work because that's how we grow things. You
Right.
know,
Right.
we work on it. We work on it together. All right.
With the dream work.
Yes, yes, yes. So at the time, there was so much more out, about Orisha via the Latin community. Okay. Again, I have nothing to say about it. It is what it is.
Right.
Okay. Nothing much, even from the Nigerian. And nothing but a few pamphlets here and there by the Africans in America.
Right.
So I'm sending the manuscript out to publishers. Meanwhile, I had printed copies and was going to Staples, okay, and selling the manual out of the trunk.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? Going to festivals and events, getting people's feedback, and all the while, sharpening up the text. People, I didn't understand this part. This was a little too much. So I'm going keep going back and forth to the drawing board.
Baba, let me jump in respectfully real quick
Yeah.
while you're sharing this story, because
Mm-hmm.
this is for like the younger youth and the younger, I'll say I'm 42, so everybody from probably my age and younger can definitely relate to this. I'll say from 42 to the 30s. But when you said that, the first thing that popped in my head is I think about like three big time hip hop pioneers who all held their own, held their own time in hip hop history. But the first one you say, it made me think about Master P and all those who were, especially the 90s crew, who were born 80s babies like myself. We all remember Master P and make him say, like he started out selling out the back of his truck before he blew up, making No Limit Records. And then Ludacris was another one who used to sell CDs out the back of his trunk. He blew up, to become who he is now. And then, the list goes on and on and on. But I say all that to say, respectfully, I wanted to intervene because when you told me the story off air, it brought me back to thinking about how many prominent big time hustlers, legitimate hustlers, were able to bring their dreams and manifest their dreams into fruition by being willing to bet on themselves and being willing and able to get down into the nitty gritty and get into the, get 10 toes down into the grind, man, and just go after it, and let it all hang out. And now look at where, you are, look at where they are, because they were willing to put in the work and believe in themselves and to push it. If nobody else ain't gonna push it, I'm gonna push it.
That's
So
right.
throw that little sauce out there for those who are watching, who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs or authors, whatever the case may be. Sometimes you got to be your biggest fan before you ever have your first real fan, and you got to be willing to push it and to be able to hustle, even if it's out the back of the trunk. But as as you have made it and have the others who I mentioned made it, that's what it takes in order to get to that level of success.
Yes, but without a doubt, and especially given our historical background in this country.
Right. Right.
People talk about microaggression, racial microaggression. Well, wasn't nothing micro about it. Okay, it's like, oh, you black. Most of the people who were lynched were business owners, land owners. Okay, that there's no escaping the fact that the powers that be, and dare I say, white society, is racist. Okay, that they are who they are, and they do what they do. There's
Right.
all kind of terms we can put on it.
Mhm.
Supremacists, terrorists, whatever. They do what they do.
Right.
And one of the most damaging things that they do outside their physical assault upon us is up here.
Hmm.
The stereotypical,
Right.
the general, notion and perception of we as a people. Well, the sons and daughters of slaves. No, I'm the son and daughter of high priests and warriors.
Hmm.
Okay. And my children are the sons and daughters of high priests and warriors.
Hmm.
We may have gone through enslavement, because if that was the case, just on a side note, everybody in this daggone country is a son and daughter of slaves. White folks were slaves to white folks as well.
Hmm.
Going back to early Greeks. Who enslaved the Greeks? Oh, the Romans. And then the Romans went out and enslaved everybody all the way up to Britain. And then here come the Vikings enslaving everybody. Come on, this whole thing about, only black people were enslaved. It's historical, foolishness.
Hmm.
But the notion is, the educational emphasis is that you folks, okay, of African descent, you like the only people who are ever enslaved on the planet.
Mm.
Get out of here with that, man. Okay. But my point is, one of the reasons, not the major reason, we have to go through so much in terms of our independence is because the system in and of itself will not support freedom of thought, reality of being, actuality of self-acceptance.
Right.
And this links to, for all the manuscripts, all the times I send a manuscript out, as I share with you, okay, 16 times I get rejection letters. 16 rejection letters. Okay. And I'm like, this is a damn good book. Okay. I'm hustling it. I got bookstores carrying a manuscript. I'm going back and trying to squeeze the daggone owners. Where's my commission?
Right. Right.
It's like, come on. I'm trying to get gang stuff in here, but we had an agreement.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So, you know what I mean? So it was like that. And I'm setting up tables, places, and people are, what? Uh, I heard about Yoruba, and it's light, it's airy. You flip through a couple of pages, there's diagrams, there's pictures. I'm the writer. It's like, oh, you African American? It's like, yeah, oh, I didn't know that we had anything to say about, this is the general kind of feel for it.
Right.
Okay. And I wasn't up there, with, oh, watch me do this. You know what I mean? And
Right.
people, want to go to the circus with this, kind of stuff. Say, no, get the book, read it. Here's my number, my email address. Let's talk about it. Let's make this happen.
Right.
If you're looking for the magical, mystical, then there's plenty of people who are doing that, because that's where our ceiling is. But we didn't make that ceiling.
Right.
The movies made it. The movie makers made it.
Right.
The system that supports the movie makers that make the movies make it. Oh, well, it has to be the voodoo kind of thing. And it's like, no, come on, we need to get off of that.
Right.
They are tripping,
Right.
and we are the ones that are falling.
Absolutely.
Okay? No. Any rate, all of these rejection letters for all of the insane reasons. And when it came down to the 17th letter, and it's amazing how the numbers play out, 16 Arumula, 17.
Man,
okay.
that's what I was going. I promise. I didn't want to interrupt you while you were talking. I promise I didn't want to interrupt you while you were talking. But because that part didn't register to me the other day when we were talking about it. But I remember I just felt the passion, and I felt the relief that you got on the very last letter, and the fact that you even thought about throwing that letter away before you opened it. And then as you were replaying the story to me today is when I got the connection between the 16 what
Yes.
to do. You know what I'm saying? And then talking about the 17th letter being the R, that made me that made me think about Rakim, the rapper Rakim a lot, man, when you talk about the 18th letter. But
See?
it's crazy how the numbers, all kind of like just manifested themselves throughout this story.
But little did they know they were just adding wood to the fire.
Mm,
Okay. Because I didn't stop with the temple. I was divining for people. People were coming from, I was affirmed at every step, every day. And meanwhile, I'm still teaching at the schools in Newark.
mm,
Okay. I'm tussling it out, with no, I'm in the hood. But because I am who I am and was doing what I was doing, I had a whole nother approach to it.
mm,
And it was working.
right,
So I'm taking note of that too. Who you are when you step into a given situation has a rippling effect on that given situation.
right,
Okay. So the 17th letter came, it stayed on my desk for about a month. I was getting ready to throw it away, and something was like, nah, you know, man up. You know what I mean?
right,
You
right,
can,
right,
you can take another hit,
right,
your back still bleeding. You know
right,
what I mean? But
right,
just bear down and take it, and then go on about your business. Because see, after this one, it's just going to be me.
right, right.
Opened the letter, and it was from the highest in terms of the pecking order of publishers,
Mm,
Samuel Wiser's.
mm,
Okay, esoteric books, been around since the 60s, that kind of thing. Global. I'm like, wow, okay. They're like, we're interested,
wow.
but you have 2 weeks to get it on a floppy disk.
Right.
I had to go get a computer from Rent a Center.
Look, that might predate some of the people who were born after the 80s. I remember Rent a Center.
Run the Rent a Center and get a computer that can put something on a floppy disk,
Right,
and run off, some more hard copies, because Staples, they couldn't do all that. And especially they couldn't do it in the time that I needed for it to get done.
right.
So me and my queen at the time, we were like, yeah, let's make this happen. And it was one of Jersey's worst storms
Mm,
that happened that winter.
mm,
And I'm like, look at here, because I didn't have to go into work.
right.
Schools were shut down for like 2 weeks.
Look, look, my mama jumped in. Yeah, yeah. Well, y'all jumped in and played her part. She said, "Hold on,
You know
this is
what
the
I'm
birth of
saying?
a new beginning, man. Let me go ahead and throw that power out there and make sure I see this project comes to life."
That's right. Because see, this this young man over here, he needed a little help though.
Right, right. And for those who are watching who aren't familiar with the Orisha pantheon and the gods and goddesses of the Orisha order, Marvel took the character who is considered to be Storm, and that's where the inspiration behind Storm came from. That would be Yeye Oya, who is the goddess of weather, the storms, and the ancestors and the cemeteries and all that. But for the sake of just to kind of tie this into, for those who may not know, she is the Orisha who is behind the storms and the weather, and I feel like she had a divine intervention with making sure that Baba got this project to come to life, man. So that's powerful.
And I didn't rush doing it either. It was like, okay,
I know that's right.
as hard as you working, I'm going to work. Okay, Arisha, you got me, I got you.
Right? That's powerful though. As above, so below. Like that is very powerful. I didn't know that part from the other day.
Yeah, a lot of times we get blessed and we just chill,
Right,
It's
right,
like, we forget that, the Ori has to be in, that the
right,
hands have to get to work,
right,
that we have to kind of bear down and not just, oh, Orisha gonna do this and Orisha gonna, no, Orisha is just there to kind of fuck you on the head every now and then to say, get yourself motivated
right,
and make something tangible
right.
happen.
And Baba, I feel like, and that's one thing, and whether you're a Orisha believer or not, or whatever your spiritual belief or whatever your faith system is, but one thing I know for sure, and I've seen it manifest in my life, I can't even number how many times, is when we do the work, the higher powers that be will help us and assist us in accomplishing whatever the task may be. But if you sitting there laying down and complaining, woe is me, and you're not out there doing none of the work, then you ain't gonna get, it ain't gonna be no assistance because the creator's looking at you like, look, if you're not gonna help me help you, I don't know what to tell you. Because I know firsthand there has not been one thing that I've ever tried to accomplish in my life that when I went pedal to the metal, balls to the wall all the way through, it got done. Even when sometimes it looked like it was impossible, it did get done. And I just look at that's what the creator does, but we got to do our part and at least do the work first. And then let the universe and the creator or Orisha or Lamare, the Orisha, whoever you pray to, let that deity or let that supreme being be your source to take you to the next level. But you got to put in the work though.
Right. That's right. I mean, you can sit there and look at the light switch all day long.
Right. Right. Right.
Well, then you can go try to turn it on, nothing happen. Oh, well, he ain't plug it in.
Right. Right. Right.
But you got to do, you got to be a part of the process.
Right.
But anyway, that's a story for another day.
Right.
But the whole thing is that, it got done.
Facts.
I met the deadline, brother. They started working on it. It took a year and a half. I was good to go. Okay. I had, again, one of the temple members work on the cover. Still sitting through, fine tuning, for via proofreading and ensuring that at my level of understanding that I was conveying what I was seeking to convey. Okay. And when that book dropped, it was like tidal wave just came and washed away so much of what we were confused about.
I believe it.
So much of what we were confused about. And the fact that I made comparative analysis, lent to, okay, he's not trying to propagate. He's not saying one thing is better than the other. He's not understanding where we as a people are, because we have been exposed to Christianity. We have been exposed to Islam. We have been exposed to the Judeo. We have been exposed to the Asian. So I'm like, I need to put that in there because people need to understand that I understand.
Right.
And it's not just about me and what I think. It's about we and what we think.
And I want to jump in on that, Baba, respectfully interject. This is something that I know firsthand. I feel like one of the biggest issues that we deal with as a people, of course, I feel like as a global people, as a human people, but I'm talking about as a Black, African American, melanated people, or even whatever the title that we call ourselves at the time. Respect. That's the number one thing that I feel like it's been the biggest issue for us as a people in the globe, for that matter, is respect. And anybody, whether they're a Orisha follower, a Christian, Muslim, or whoever, they're into, the Asian, Far East Asian cultural, spiritual practice, what have you. Everybody who you mentioned, they all got their due respect in the handbook. Like you said, you didn't put Ifa or the Orisha over anybody, but that's where when you have true thought leaders or true people who think for themselves and who are able to have any kind of inner being or any kind of inner connection to inner self or Ori, like you realize the significance and the power of that, because respect is one of the biggest reasons why I feel like so many wars and so many different things have happened over religion to begin with, because other people don't respect other people's spiritual practices or beliefs, and they think that theirs is better. You coming from the path that you came from, you painted the picture crystal clear for anybody from really all walks of life, from all those different spiritual paradigms, to be able to still see the picture that you were painting for Orisha, but yet still to give a very crystal clear, in-depth analysis about Christianity, about Islam, about like Buddhism, all that. And then you gave metaphors to tie all of them into their respective deities, into their respective practices, etc. And I think that, for me personally, is what really made this work such a masterful piece of work. I've been a student of life all my life, and I continue to want to be that way for the rest of my life. But I love to read, and I love the fact that you paid respect to every other spiritual practice. Didn't talk down on them, didn't disrespect them by any means, but yet you still was able to prove your point and share your story from your perspective. and then be able to give that comparative analysis. I think that's, among so many other things, is what makes this a masterpiece. But that right there, like, to get your backstory on how and why you did that is phenomenal. So for those who are a fan of this work or who are new to this work, you got to check this book out and make sure that you know, just pay close attention to how, you know, the I feel like the foresight that you used in order to put this work out, and I think it just sets it apart from a lot of other books that I read, man. It really does.
Well, you know, that foresight comes from all those years of struggling to have insight, you know, and it's like, okay, I was, if I wasn't the first to correspond or Orisha with the chakras,
Mm,
you know, nobody was doing that.
right.
Nobody was doing that. And if they were way over there somewhere. I didn't even know about them. Okay. And I was like, why should this not be? Okay. We are still reaching all up there for everything. You know, the blessings. Oh, look at God, and you know, blah blah blah. Well, look at you. You know what I mean? Okay, look at you,
Well, then,
and then keep looking at you.
right.
Okay, don't stop looking at yourself. You know what I mean?
Right.
Don't, why would you want to give that up? Okay, because that's what you've been conditioned to do. Okay,
Yeah.
so if
No.
every other system of internalization, you know, if there every other system has an esoteric, you know, dimension to it, even Christianity, the agnostics, okay, even Islam, the Sufis, you understand? There's just different levels of folks who are doing different levels of things with their chosen belief system, with their faith. And I'm like, okay, so you have Hindus who are into the meditation and doing their mantras and yantras and all that kind of thing. And then you
Mm,
have Hindus who aren't. But the system is still there.
right.
The realization that there's a chakra system is evident. Now, whether you practice it or not, or how deeply you practice it, that's a whole nother story.
Right.
But it's there.
Facts.
There is an internal process, whereas in your internalization brings you to the doors of enlightenment.
Right.
Now that's basically called the left-hand path.
Mm,
The right-hand path is more exoteric. You know, everything is outside of you. And I'm like, how that makes no sense to me when I have this, you know, this body and
right.
everything that comprises it. It is in itself a masterpiece.
Right. Absolutely. That's facts.
Okay. Okay. We are just taught to not think of it. Okay. So how else can we become more divine? Notice I said divine, not godly or godlike, or, you know, again, I'm not going to argue with folks about semantics.
Right.
But if we are seeking Orisha, then why are we not seeking Ori?
Mm,
Because our Ori is not out there.
mm,
Our Ori is in here. And
mm,
so everything that's lined up inside of us is the Ori. The Ori may start and end here, but it pervades throughout the whole body.
right.
Your whole body is a conscious being. You know, you touch your hand, you feel it.
Right.
Okay. Not just because you have a brain, but because there's receptors. You know what I mean? Everything is wired.
Absolutely.
Okay. And if you train at something hard enough, the brain just becomes like, oh, it's a reflex. It can do it on its own.
Right.
You know, we'll think about it later. Okay. So, you know, my point is, I introduced that to bring an understanding that if we're going to seek divinity, let's not forget to do it within ourselves.
Mm,
If we're going to be Orisha, devotees, then we cannot separate ourselves from that. As Orisha devotees, okay, as Ifa devotees, perhaps embracing another understanding devoid of that will assist in the awakening, the arising, the dawning of the very ancestral greatness that we call ourselves, pursuing. Okay. My work has been an uphill battle from day one. There has been nothing easy about anything that I have done in life in general. Now, when the knowledge of African traditional religions, became accessible to me, I was already a grown man, in many, if not all senses of the word. I happened across it while in college at Rutgers. I was studying percussion. One of the brothers, okay, passed me a pamphlet and said, "You need to read this." Like, okay, I got it. Okay. And the pamphlet was no more than, 15, 20 pages. I still remember it was just a pamphlet, and it was on Orisha. Yeah, and at 25 years old, with family, post-military, all of that, I had never heard of it. But when I dwelled into it, all of my ancestral bones resonated and said, see, through percussion, we have led you to your ancestral understanding. Okay. Because we fought and marched for African history, okay, in the colleges and everywhere else. Okay. But we weren't marching and fighting for African spirituality, African religion, okay, for a deeper understanding of, our ancestral reverence. We were revering our ancestors, our ancestors, our African ancestors, our history, our understanding that, we are from the continent of Africa, be it whatever region, okay, and so overshadowed by Europeanism and even Asian. Okay. So it was like, okay, everybody else existed in the world except us. Like, come on, we're going to struggle for this. We're going to fight for this. We're going to take classes in it. As I shared, I was a student of Professor Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. I knew Dr. Joseph Buchanan. Okay. Right. I may be not mispronouncing his name right now. Joe Cannon with a J.
Dr. Okay? Ben, yes, sir.
Dr. Ben. They used to come around, Ron Karenga, So I was working in the Council of Independent, Black businesses. We called it CB at the time. Okay, this was going back in the 70s and all. But I bring all that together to say that we were historically and politically making our voices heard, but there was whispers about, that African religious stuff. Right. There wasn't much going on. And during that time, late 70s, moving and through into the 80s, if you wanted to know anything about African religions, you generally had to go through the Latin folks, Cuban, right, okay, Puerto Ricans, okay, and the whole line. And I'm saying, in due respect, I came to understand, syncretism and the impact of Catholicism on we as a people enslaved,
Right.
I'll say, okay, so whatever you have to do to survive, you have to do to survive. I get it. So through those channels, it became clear what this African traditional religious, momentum was about.
Right.
As time went on, it became clearer that it wasn't too much about the African in North America. And so here, my tribal nation
Right.
was deplete. Okay. And it was like, okay, so from the Cuban experience, I gathered this. From the Puerto Rican experience, I gathered this. Okay. Might get from Brazil, the candomblé, I'm gathering this. So you have Santeria, you have candomblé, okay, you have Lukumi, and all of these avenues
Mhm.
to African religiosity, quote unquote, spirituality, quote unquote. I'm not going to get caught up with semantics here.
Right.
The whole movement, let's just put it that way,
Right.
was again through those channels, and all of the kind of hoodoo and the response to the African, quote unquote, African in America
Mhm.
was devoid of African centered religiosity and thought. And I personally found that problematic.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
I personally found that to be a displacement. And again, I'm not here to pass judgment on any group. Okay.
Right.
Everyone is doing what they feel as though they need to do.
Right.
Just like I'm doing what I feel as though I need to do. But the point is, I didn't feel the need at a certain point
Mhm.
to keep going through the Latin experience in order for me to have a direct connection with my African ancestors.
Right.
And at one point, I really began to look at the syncretism, which I never followed. I was like, there's no way on this earth that I'm going to embrace Catholicism in any way, shape, or form. I am not going to do it. I will not be indoctrinated or forced into the global gangsterism. Okay.
Right.
But that's my opinion. That's my perspective.
Right.
I don't have anything to do with anybody else's, just like they don't have anything to do with mine.
Right.
But I do know that I have never put my head to the ground in front of any imagery that did not reflect my African ancestry.
Mm.
Okay. But at the time, that's all I was seeing everywhere I was going. Or, quote unquote, black folk, are into it and they doing what they do. And I'm like, well, half a loaf is better than none.
Right.
I do understand. But at some point, I'm learning drumming and percussion, and I'm offering up chant songs. We have to be delivered from this as well. Only because I know. So I can't give you the backstory without giving you the back of the backstory.
I got you.
Okay. Because see, this has to be felt. Anybody can pick up a book.
Right.
Okay. But when you're dealing with an elder, it's because you need to feel it. You need to understand that there was a purpose for that elder. And in this case, myself,
Right.
doing what they do. Okay. What is the spiritual force behind it, and how anything, Afrocentric is demonized.
Right. Right.
So it's like we just getting hit everywhere we turn. I said, I have something for all that. It's called intelligence.
I know that's right.
Okay. It's called, really being able to see through all of this. For example, you read a book, any book.
Right.
Okay. people understand the book. Okay, let's talk about the book, blah blah blah. But okay, who wrote the book? Okay,
Right.
well, let's say Baba Ifa Karade wrote the book, or Oloye Ifa Karade wrote the book. Right? Who knows Oloye Baba Ifa Karade?
Right. Right.
Okay, who really knows him? Oh, we read his book. Okay, well, that's wonderful. But do you know the man? Okay. Do you know his thoughts? Do you
Right.
know what really, really motivates him intrinsically
Right.
to make this happen? Because only then will you fully understand the book. Okay. So, again, the tip of the iceberg kind of thing. Oh, the book is out there, or we're into African traditional religions, which happens to be Yoruba, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Right.
But beneath the surface, that's where the mass of the iceberg is.
Right.
And very few dare to even conceptualize it.
Right.
Even fewer will dive into the waters, and even fewer will grasp the understanding that comes with the weight and the mass of what is visible.
Right.
So what I'm trying to share, okay, or what I am sharing, with your listeners, is that this is not a surface level conversation. The
Right.
book is not a surface level, kind of attempt to bring us to, some awareness of African spirituality, African religions. Again, I'm not going to get caught up in semantics here,
Right.
but while I'm still living, try to understand me and make connections to the journey, because maybe in some small way, as you've so wisely stated.
Would you happen to have a rough estimate of about how many copies of the handbook have been sold? Because I'm curious to know. I know it's.
We can, Google it. I can look at my last royalty check. You know what I mean? My statement.
I'm sure it's
But
in
let's,
thousands upon thousands of them.
oh
Though,
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Let's imagine this.
millions, you think?
It went into publication in 1994. Okay, it's now 2023. If a book stops selling, then they discontinue it.
Right.
That book has been, at certain points, one of the top sellers for the company. Now, mind you, I was their only Black author for a while.
I believe it.
And mind you, that there were no other books in English that were accessible, okay, to the people in mass for the African American, quote unquote, folks. And for those who weren't African American and who were interested in Yoruba or involved in Yoruba, also serve them.
Wow.
Okay. So the next thing you know, I'm getting calls. I'm traveling. There's lectures. I'm in colleges. I'm doing things as a result of the book.
It's powerful, man.
And connected to business. Of course, it had to be managed. Okay. Of course, it had to be managed. This is not child's play here.
Right.
You were going to say?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking. I'm thinking it's. I definitely would love to know the numbers. I would assume it should be in the millions, man. It's been in publication that long, and as many copies that has sold over that amount of years. You're talking about since '94. That's what 04, 14, 20. You're talking about almost 30 years. It's been in publication, and now in audio format as well as paper book.
Oh, at one point it was in 4 languages.
Wow.
It was selling in German. It was selling in Dutch. I had a chance to go to the Netherlands. Someone, they paid for my trip. They paid for my stay. Okay. All because of that, It was in English, and I think it was in Spain. It was in Spanish,
Hmm.
you know. So it was in Spain. So that that's no longer happening as much, you know, in the international scene,
Right.
because things have happened in the company. But
But the fact that it happened, that's a major
oh,
accomplishment in itself.
and it
That's
happened for a minute,
right.
okay, as we say, you know, it went on for a number of years. Now, post COVID, uh, I got a call from the publishing company. They want to talk to me about making the handbook a classical and uh, doing an audiobook.
Hmm.
This was just 2 or 3 years ago.
Right. Right.
So
I,
even since 1994, 2 or 3 years ago, people like, we have a fresh idea. The original owners sold Samuel Weiser's, okay, and they sold it to a group of individuals that I was having, you know, little, you know, problem with, because it's like,
mhm.
you know, you come in here, you know, like you got it like that,
Right.
and you're not really respecting, you're not really taking things into consideration. You're a younger breed,
Right.
and you know, you're Anglos, the people who owned it since the 60s, they were Jewish. So
Mm.
they had a different perspective of
Right. Right.
everything.
Gotcha.
And these young little whippersnappers come in with some madness, and I had to ice them, man. I put them on. See, I don't care if you stop selling the book. I'm still living,
I know that's right.
and the book is still in circulation.
Right.
People crates of the book in their bookstores. Oh, it's going to continue to sell.
Absolutely.
And if push come to pull, I'll put it back in the trunk of my car.
I know that.
I mean, I ain't scared of you. I don't know that bad. I ain't trying to live in your neighborhood. You
Back to the
understand?
streets, man. Let's take it back to the streets. Came from the streets, we can go
Right,
back to the streets.
you know.
Uh,
And but you know, we sat down, we negotiated. See, you're not going to do what you want to do with
right.
what's mine. And it's just not my book, it's my people, it's my culture, it's my ancestors, it's my original philosophical and religious spirituality. All of that is mine.
Mm.
And you just can't come and do what you want to do with it. That's what you've been doing since the 1490s. And
Mm.
I am not about it.
No, that's right. Not to mention legacy.
You understand?
Mm.
So I had to let them know. And I started writing letters to people over them. It's like, no, if you want to alter my book, then you write your own daggone book and you put your name on it. But I will not be a tool for you. I'm not going to play the overseer, you know, or whatever.
Right.
You know, I'm just not going to do it. I will fight you until ain't nobody left.
You know, and I'm gonna tie this back into business, but the music business, Baba. I see a lot of people who are selling their royalties and their rights, their intellectual properties, to big companies now, and it's kind of sad to see. I don't know what people's financial situation is. So I'm not going to judge people on decisions that they make based off of their work and their catalogs. Depending on how they need to support their family. But one thing I do know, it's kind of sad to see some of the brothers and sisters who have built legacies. I'm talking about powerful legacies who are selling, their catalogs to some of these companies, because now it's like, well, yeah, they got a nice chunk of change, hundreds of millions of dollars to sell those catalogs, but who knows what those catalogs could have made over the test of time, in
Right.
terms of passing down to to their children or their children's children, etc. That's how I feel like some of the ultra wealthy companies have made it to where they are. When you talk about the Rothschilds, and you talk about all these, you know what I'm saying, all these families who have passed down generational wealth in the hundreds of millions of billions of trillions, it's
Right.
because they kept it in the family. So that's one thing that, like I said, I'm not going to judge and throw stones at, houses, glass houses. I don't know the whole story behind, but I do wish more of us had your mindset in terms of not being willing to negotiate your legacy, because
Yeah.
that's something that I think is powerful within itself, that, I feel like it's something beneficial for all of us if we do, learn to hold on to our heritage and our legacy.
But see, on the other side of that, you know, and you know I embrace what you say, you know, wholeheartedly. these people threaten your lives, man.
Oh, I know. I know.
You know what I mean? They go real who they are.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're right.
Same way that we had land to pass on to our descendants.
Right.
Here they come. You know
Right.
what I mean? They're gonna burn down the town. They're gonna come up with made up
Oh yeah.
legal statements.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, poor sharecropper man who just kept his family together and kept doing what he's doing, but I'm gonna pass this on to my kids.
Right.
Next thing you know, here come the suit and tie with, well, this land is no longer yours. Or what you mean it's no longer mine? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
And see, that's again, that's what's damaging about having so little power,
Mm-hmm.
because there's no unified force, there's no coalition of black millionaires who are saying, I'm not going to let that happen to us anymore.
Right.
And the same way they can go gangster to try to take it, we're going to go gangster to make sure that you keep it.
That's facts.
But other than that, everybody's like, just give me the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just give me the money, or I'll keep it on the down low. You understand what I'm saying? Because it's it's not going to matter if all of us are lynched. It's not going to matter if all of us, get thrown, you know, airplane, Aaliyah, everyone who tried to get real, Michael Jackson, I don't care
Yeah.
who had the
Michael
money,
Jackson.
tried to
Yeah.
say, I don't need y'all.
Yeah.
Okay. And even Prince was like, I got to do what I got to do, but I know somebody got to have my back, because see, these individuals that I'm dealing with, they are literally,
Mm-hmm.
hardcore.
Yeah.
So, you know, uh, again, but this is a shout out to people who do have it like that.
Right.
What can we do? What can we get? And then how can we protect it?
Right.
From folks coming in. And if we don't sell it, then they burn it down.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh
Tulsa.
yeah. Yeah. Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
The
So,
Philly.
yeah.
I can go on and on, but yeah.
Oh, and then there's like so many that we don't even know about.
Yeah. After party. But but yeah, that's a whole nother conversation, man.
That's a whole nother conversation, because
The combination of spirituality with economics, and
yeah,
to be able to, you know what I'm saying, like to really use, especially for those who are in the, Orisha faith and in the Ifa spiritual system or path, we're definitely going to figure out a way to, we talk about business and how there is no separation in spirituality or spiritual belief systems, and for us, Ifa and Orisha, what should be our focus and our vision in terms of using the power of Orisha and the power of Ifa to fuel an economic movement and an economic revolution amongst our people.
our focus from my little corner of the universe should be on creating a lighthouse.
Hmm.
A lighthouse.
Could you?
That's why I'm working on the temple, the institute. That's why I'm gathering like minds, because see, people in mass will move if the leadership is moving.
Hmm.
They will move in the direction in mass of the leadership. We have to gather our animators together, our writers together. We have to establish a center of our universe, because at this point, we still don't have one.
Hmm.
And once that is done, then we can start bringing in more and more people to the understanding.
Hmm.
Okay. Farrakhan did it with the Nation of Islam. Elijah did it. Okay. His son, Wardeen, continued that legacy. Okay. Dr. King did it. El Hajj did it. Okay. Everybody did what they needed to do, and that was to create a center. Now look at Orisha, folks. There is no center. There is no body. Okay, in all the ways that can be interpreted.
Right.
You know? But once that becomes concrete, and people say, "Oh, I see the lighthouse. That's the direction we need to go in." Okay. You can't move the masses unless you develop a strong leadership.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Prolific Perspective Podcast. I appreciate all y'all for joining us. If you could, please like, share, and subscribe. And we will be back next week with another show for you. I appreciate you.